is in your early 20s, you and your brother, you started it. And what, in the first year you passed 1 million, or the second?
Second.
The second year
Well,
you passed a
technically, the
million.
first year we stopped. Like I stopped 3 months in, and then got it going 9 months in. So August of 2021 was the first start. August 2022 was the restart, and then that calendar August to August, I think we didn't touch 1 million. Maybe something like that. But I don't know if fiscal
Within 2
calendar.
years, you
Yeah,
passed
within
like a
2 years we were over 1 million.
That's wild for young kids, junk
Just push.
hauling, just pushing, grinding. I mean, there's companies that have been around forever that haven't passed 1 million. Me being one of them. Right, we're changing that. That's happening in the next year or two. Um, Wild. So just tell us a little bit about that journey. Like what I know, obviously I've heard the story before of how you kind of got into it. But just go through that real quick. Tell people how you got
Yeah,
there.
so I was working for a moving company, right? It's very similar to junk service. So I quickly grasped that concept and then wanted to do it myself. I tried partnering with the moving company owner at the time to do junk on my own, but with him under the same company. He didn't really want to do it. So I just said, screw it. Like, I have no idea how to do this, but I'm going to try. And about 6 to 8 months earlier, I started a cleaning business. The same kind of format, same concept, and miserably failed just because I had no idea of the basic concepts of marketing. Really, it was all marketing. You know what I mean? To get your name and exposure out there, anyone could do those jobs. Anyone could do a moving job. Anyone can do a junk job. Anyone could do a cleaning job,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Quality might lack, but no. So it wasn't.
Well, hold on. Let's not
hard.
gloss over quality, though.
Yeah.
The quality of the service you provide and the reviews that you guys
Oh,
get
for sure. For sure.
supports marketing, because let's just
Oh, for sure.
customer service is a huge component
Yeah.
of marketing, right?
Well, I mean, the first thing people do when they Google you is they're going to look at the reviews. I don't care what you say, they're going to look at your reviews. And if you have a 5.0,
you're good.
They might gloss over that. They might not look into it, but you have a 4.7, 4.0. They're like,
oh,
let me see that one bad review, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I had no idea going into Junk Dogs the first time how to market, right? I had basic understanding of Google Ads, zero clue what SEO was. I put together the website. Oh, that was wild. And yeah, but I was still getting jobs off of like $1,000 budget on Google Ads. And that, I should have been very happy about that and very like thankful, but I wasn't. And I was like tortured myself and basically just drove myself to the point of closing and stopping the business.
Oh, wow.
Which is
how much revenue did you generate off that $1,000 spend?
I think the first month, and I don't know if it was, I had a trailer wrapped and I'd park it everywhere.
Yeah.
I think the first month we did like 15 grand in revenue. Right. Dude, looking back, I'm like, what the? And I think the real reason, and this is kind of the curse of the new entrepreneur that comes out, that's not an entrepreneur at heart, right? Like I was not like born into an entrepreneur family. I think I always had that spark where I like buying, trading, and selling stuff. So I had that in me, but I never had like someone to look at and be like, oh, I can take this and just blow it up.
Yeah.
Dad's a teacher, mom's a nurse. Very, very respectable jobs, but in no way, shape, or form is it a business? Is it like can you generate revenue from it, right? So coming out of that, I worked my ass off at the moving company, 80-hour, 90-hour weeks, just because I was like, that's all I know, right? Work hard. It's what my parents always instilled in me. Just work hard. And then going into Junk Dogs, I made the same amount of money, in my pocket, same amount of money, but I was working a fifth or a fourth. And you would think like, that's great. Like that would turn anybody on. But to me, I was like, it freaked me out because I'm like, if I'm not doing anything, then I feel lazy. I feel like
downtime is what messed with your head.
Killed me.
Why?
Because
like most people's goal is to get as little bit of time in the business as possible while making revenue. And you went backwards from it.
Yeah, crazy backwards. So I came from the moving company where I was literally working nonstop, day in, day out, morning to night. And I loved it. And I wanted and I expected that same energy and busyness to translate right into my junk business, like right away.
I had to be booking.
Oh my gosh, I expected it just to be super packed. But also I didn't know that like my jobs were taking an hour, whereas the same amount of revenue was driven from his jobs at 5 hours. Granted, there was some expenses in there, but still, I had no clue. There
How
was no
good you
scale.
really had
There
it.
was no scale of good or bad. It was
Yeah.
like you're just doing this, and however you feel is however it is.
Yeah.
And so every morning I would wake up just like not stressed, but like, gosh, what do I have to do to crack the code? Dude, all I had to do was pay more on Google Ads.
Yeah, I mean, if you let's say you're paying off the truck and trailer, I don't know at the time, right?
They were cash. They were bought. No overhead. I
So
was
you had no
out of
overhead,
my garage.
15 grand in revenue, 1,000 in ad spend, 14 grand going in the bank.
Well, it wasn't 14 grand. I have crazy, like there's junk has expenses, dump
Well,
fees,
dumping
gas.
and all that kind of stuff.
Let's just call it 50%.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah. 7-8 grand in the bank. And your OCD was like, I gotta be moving.
Just it drove me to quit it, right? It's ironically enough that we're having this conversation. I just talked to someone yesterday and they're like, you know what? They're like, all you have to do is not blow up. Like if you just continue to push throughout, you'll be fine. He's like, but if you break, that's what will fuck you up. Like nothing else can fuck you up other than yourself breaking you.
Yeah.
He's like, don't beat yourself up too much. Dude, I tormented myself for the first 3 months. And then I also didn't really like the I don't know how the way to use this, but it was so sporadic.
Yeah.
They call you, they want you there in an hour.
Unreliable scheduling and
so it's
expectations.
I went and worked I saw the moving company. We were 3 weeks out. Just fully booked.
Okay.
And granted, you hadn't done the jobs. You don't know what's going to go wrong. There's inevitably things are going to go wrong.
But you have a schedule.
Oh my gosh, it just makes you feel a little bit better, right?
Well, and that's what you're looking at. You're seeing this. I'm sure you were comparing yourself to my schedule is like they call me and I got an hour and I got nothing booked out for the next 3 weeks. This guy's got everything booked out for the next 3 weeks. So what am I doing wrong?
Basically, I had to be at everyone's beck and call. I had to be ready to go at any time, which as a 21, 22-year-old living with a bunch of guys, like I should have just stuck it out and done that and been happy as hell, like what I was doing.
Right.
But I knew I could easily get trapped into that as well. Right. So a part of me like is very upset that I quit, but a part of me is very thankful that I got to experience that. And like now I have a very, very deeper perspective about business and failures, successes.
Well, I think
what is a failure? What is a success? Right.
Yeah. So, I'm realizing that was kind of a success, but
that
the drive that made you quit is also the drive that makes you so successful.
Correct.
So it's one of those double-edged swords for sure.
No. So I think all in all, I don't think anything that happens to you in the past can be looked at as a bad thing because it got you to where you're at now.
Yeah. Learn from it.
Yeah. So I just took a really, really big learning moment for the next 9 months, which was like the slow season. So from November, I went and worked for a guy in demo because I was like, dude, demo sounds way better. Like these guys have jobs booked out for 2 years. Some of these, people, because it takes a lot of time, permits and all that stuff. But the second someone says, I want to do this, the clock starts. And then they're like, okay, I need you to get in 2 years. I need you to be here at this time. And perfect. Yeah. So construction really turned me on in that way where I was like, I know I can manage a schedule as long as it's like, I have a schedule. Long story short, I just freaked myself out in a way that, like I just didn't know. I really just didn't know what a failure, what a success was because I just came from busyness, which to me was success. Yeah. Rather than like, you can do half of this and still be successful, right? I think at the end of the day in business, like if you're doing everything morally right, ethically right, whatever ends up in your pocket is a success. Like however you measure it, right? Yeah. The best thing I ever heard was revenue is vanity, profit is sanity.
Yeah.
It's great. That's from what's it? The
oh my God.
Profit first.
Yeah. But he quoted somebody in that book.
Probably,
but it's fair. Whatever it is,
it's fucking amazing because you see $1 million business, no one knows half the expenses we have, but it's easy to just say, oh, we do 1.2.
Well, I was listening to like Jack Daly or somebody yesterday. He's like, would you? Maybe not even him. I don't remember. But they're like, would you rather get 1% of $100 million company or 10% of a $10 million company?
Mark Cuban on Shark Tank always says that.
It's the same. It's less work and more profit. Like, like the bigger you get, the more problems you have. More money, more problems, right? So that stuff's hard to keep.
I also talk to guys that are like, I've done 100 million and lost 10 million. I've done 100 million and made 30 million. I've done 10 million and made 5.
Hopefully they had good salaries out of it though, as part of that loss, right? Yeah. Like, it's not a. It's crazy.
Comparatively speaking, right? I think now, and I think where I was at then, I was still on social media. I'm not anymore, just because I personally can't deal with outside people, if I'm not directly talking to you and skin to skin, we could shake hands.
Yeah.
I don't think your advice is going to do anything for me. And granted, I'm still one that, catches myself on a reel every now and then, like, oh man, I'm not doing that. So I'm fucking pathetic.
Yeah.
But I deleted all of it since, because I'm like, if I can't talk to you, then we don't have anything in common, and you can't really relate to my situation. But if I can go and talk to you and we could talk about your 25 years of business that you've been in, I can relate to you way more, because now we're having a real conversation rather than a clip conversation, right? Everybody wants a clip moment where
we're going to get a bunch of those.
We had $100 million at 50% margins, and everyone's like, whoa.
Yeah.
How do I do that? How am I not doing that?
Well, we were shipping drugs across the country and nobody knows about it. But
well, there was a lot of illegal stuff going. I mean,
yeah.
And then getting into it, talking to more people, you start to realize that a lot of these successful people are just morally corrupt. I mean, just have no backbone whatsoever. Company in this area that does site services, like porta potties and stuff, they were dumping in the ocean. Sank them in the ocean.
Really?
I swam there all as a kid. I have shit running through my veins now.
I've said this a million times. I could have been so much richer if I just didn't have morals, right? Like even in our industry, people will like take deals and not service it or whatever. And we're the opposite. Like I'll give you let's just say for numbers, like a $5,000 project, knowing a certain number of hours, I'll go double those hours if you're not happy, because we want you to be happy. And then there's like, we have a buddy that has an e-commerce website, and people have literally cloned it, changed one letter in the URL, collected all the payments, and then just done nothing with it. Just straight collected payments and then transferred out. There's no getting it back.
Yeah.
And it's crazy what people will do to be successful.
Yeah, I just don't understand. I don't understand how you could sleep at night or just walk around without feeling like you have a target on your back.
Dude, even if it's not that, my thought is there's no longevity, right? Like even when we do SEO and stuff, they're like, you could do all these things.
You're chasing new clients constantly.
I'm trying to do foundational stuff that's going to stick with you for 10 years, right? There's a lot of gimmicks that might get you a spike, but they eventually always catch on. You know what I mean? So it's legally, they're going to catch on. Fudging Google, they're going to it's a short term. And if that's your goal is to be out in a year, fine, whatever. But that's not us.
No, I'm with you, man. Like I just, to be honest, that's where we've gotten hammered, is just doing the right thing. We've done jobs, we've lost 10 grand just because we're like,
we floated it. We
or we've thrown away a new AC unit, and I could show this picture to you and you would die at anybody trying to make up for that mistake. The guy wasn't on site, says, take this pile of trash. Took the time to circle it, go in his phone, edit. He's an older guy, circled it. Did not mention an AC unit that we couldn't take. Brand new,
the circle,
like a mini split. Yeah, in the circle. Take this all. Okay. And he calls, hey, where did you leave that? What are you talking about? Oh, the mini split that was there.
Is that when the window one's a mini split?
$1,500 off a $200 job that I had to pay. So I'd
almost be like, look, bud.
Here's
the circle.
So, but just to your point, is it worth it to prove him wrong?
No.
Because after that, he stopped using us, which was
he still did? Oh, in that case, then it would have been fine.
I think he used us a couple more times, but then he had the nerve to send me someone else's price and be like, here's their price, way lower than yours. I was like, if they actually
throw your air conditioner, they're not going to reimburse you.
Yeah, buddy. I was like, do you? I don't know if I mentioned that because I try to just.
Well, I wouldn't say that directly, but in my mind,
oh my gosh, it was what I had in my mind was crazy.
They're not going to do.
Yeah. So that, and then afterwards, I'm just like, well, do you lower your prices for anybody that asks for that? Probably not. He's a custom home builder.
Oh no.
You charge exactly what you want.
Yeah.
So, but he's called us back since, recently, past 2 months, we've gotten some calls. So I'm like, okay, good. Right. We did a good thing. But to your point, are you in it for the quick money now or longevity? And what's really, really hard about watching all this stuff go on around you and hear these little clip moments, you're like, well, if I'm not doing $10 million next month because of this new trick I learned, then I'm so pathetic in this. But then you talk to guys, 99% of people in business are having the same struggles as you. Even the top 1%. I've talked to a couple of them recently. Yeah. Dude, there's only one guy that I felt is levitating. Only one guy that I've literally been like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's just just the way he talks in a Starbucks is like, what the fuck? With every other person. Guy sold his company for $50 million a couple years ago. works nonstop, stressed nonstop,
Yeah.
always going. Guy that had $150 million company construction got his ass handed to him. And, just because a couple things happen, right? Where it becomes war. Like, and I have to have a moment here. There are emotions in business. Business is not war.
Right.
Okay. Like everyone who says that has never been in a war moment. They're just seeing the clip. Business is war.
Yeah.
You have to be cutthroat. Like, shut up, dude. Shut up. It's the same thing in football. If you are a quarterback and you throw your pass to receiver, you're gonna be emotional as fuck. Bro, catch the damn ball.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna get.
You're not gonna fight.
You're not gonna get personally offended by it.
Right.
That's a different. I think that's the conundrum in business when people say that there's no emotions in business. Yes, there is plenty of emotions.
Right.
I've cried.
It's just not acting
so
on
many
them.
times. I've bled and sweat so many times. There's so many emotions poured into our businesses, everybody's businesses. To just throw that out is crazy, because then you're going to create these like robots that have no feelings, and they're going to do shit like you said. Like they're just going to cut corners,
be gangster just to get the money.
You just can't take business isn't personal,
right?
But it is emotional as hell.
Even on a small level, like one of the guys I used to have in the office, I tried to tell him, like, he'd make a website, right? And it was his design, his baby or whatever. And then the customer would want to change it. And then he'd get like upset and emotional. I'm like, look, man, for one, our job is to make the customer happy, right? We're not building our own portfolio. This is an art project. But at the end of the day, it's a job. It's business. We're delivering a service. We want to do good. But there's no reason to get like emotionally invested in these changes. Right?
Don't get personal about it.
There's going to be 5,000 other projects you have to do. And if you're getting ulcers from every single one of them because they want to tweak something, whatever, it's not gonna. You're gonna stress yourself out.
I think at the end of the day, a tough thing to do is be honest, but it's the best thing, because if you're honest with the customer and the customer's honest with you and everybody's honest, and especially B2B, like business to business type of stuff, if everyone's honest and no one's trying to one up somebody or trying to sneak something around somebody, everyone's going to be a lot happier. Everyone's going to sleep better at night. And I think, plain and simply, I think things would just be better.
Dude, everybody makes mistakes. It's something I tell the team. It's something I try to get the team to believe. We're people. Everybody's people. And it's crazy. Even like you watch these giant corporations, they're all making the same kind of mistakes. They're all run by people, right? But the difference is, how do you respond to it? Do you do you try to blame them? Do you we've had several customers where we're not at fault. They might be at fault, but we still fall on the sword because they're the customer. But at the end of the day, if we do make a mistake, we'll tell them, this is what we did wrong. This is how we're going to fix it. And that's it. I think 99% of the time, you come out on the other end more respected. They're more loyal because they know you're not bullshitting them. You're not screwing them.
Yeah.
You're making good choices.
I think at the end of the day, looking at everything as a partnership rather than like a vendor client relationship, we're a partnership. Like everybody we work with, we try to partner with. Like the flips we're doing, the money guy, we're partners, right? If I mess something up on the job as the construction end of things, then that's on me. Right. Like, and I'll own up to that, but I hope he has the same amount of grace I would give him for a mistake that he made, which I inevitably will. Right. Yeah. My brother and I are partners. We make mistakes all the time. And it's easy to go at each other because we're brothers, right? Like you're not afraid of him walking out on you.
That threshold.
Yeah, you're not afraid of him walking out on you.
Going anywhere, buddy.
Pretty much say whatever you want and get away with it. But at the end of the day, you have to be like emotional, but not take it personal, right? You
just want to be invested.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like if there's no emotion in business, I don't want to be in business with you, because if you're not emotionally invested in this, then what are you emotionally invested in?
You're not driven.
Well, right? Because are you emotionally invested in something else?
Yeah.
Like personally, when I get involved with something, I'm emotional about it. Like I'm gonna put my best foot forward, and I think at any time you put your best foot forward, emotions will be involved. Like you can't break your back and just kill yourself with no emotions.
Yeah.
Like it's just,
you're not going to,
I don't want to harp on that topic too much, but
but you're going to quit earlier. You're not going to, and then just the other side of the partnership, I did a video about this a while ago, and specifically to us as digital marketers, like partnering to deal with the negatives, but also like to support the positives, support the work, right? Like I did a whole video about like, you need to, don't just hire a company for any service potentially, right? Some are more hands-on, some are not, but like in our business, don't just hand it off. Like you guys were great when you were clients about paying attention to what's going on, looking at the reports, making changes, making suggestions. Like you lived and breathed it yourself and used us as a tool, and consultants or whatever. Like we went back and forth about what's good, what's bad, whatever, and made plans, right? Versus other customers will hire us. They forget about us. They don't send us what we need. They don't, do
Yeah.
what we ask, you know what I mean? And they're like, how come it's not working? I was like, well, here's the 10 things we needed from you
And
to get there.
even then, you could look introspectively and say, well, how did we not follow up
No,
enough?
yeah,
Like, you know
we've
what I mean?
changed, we've written new processes for follow up. So for some of them, absolutely. Like we talked and like reports was a big issue. We've completely revamped reports. Everybody gets them by the 15th. They're detailed. It's the number one priority at the beginning of every month
Mhm.
for Dan to get the reports out, right? So you got to learn from those kind of things too. But just that partnership, both in responsibility. That's it. That's it. It's a partnership and responsibility, whether it's things that need to get done, addressing issues, whatever. I think you're right. Like that partnership for anybody that you're doing business with, that's not just a transactional. If I'm buying a TV or a widget, that's not what I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
any kind of recurring relationship, I think that that emotional investment and that partnership are
Yeah.
critical to success.
Yeah. I mean, and you could take that saying or that phrase like a million different ways, right? I just think at the end of the day, have a backbone, be morally right. Like don't screw anybody over. Granted, you know, see, this is what I'm saying. You could take that a million different ways. I like to think that I'm very pragmatic, and I could see both sides. I could
Yeah.
understand perspectives.
Empathetic even.
Yeah, sometimes too much, but you can't get bullied by
Right.
somebody.
Right.
You have to stand your ground, but maybe talk to a few people
Well,
about
and pick
what's
your
right or
battles
wrong.
too.
Yeah, pick your battles. I think that's a great way to say it. Pick your battles, right?
Yeah.
No, is this good? We had a guy one time with hazardous waste. We were doing some like dirt cheap stuff, not crazy amounts of stuff, and we properly handled it, but lost money, of course, because we didn't price it right.
Yeah.
But he was just
Slowly and
on my
stuff.
ass. I'm like, dude, you sound like I think I'm the third person you've called today, and we're gonna do it for you, and we're gonna do the next one. But after that, when I can't do it exactly how you want it, exactly when you want it, to the perfect T,
Yeah.
you're just gonna call the next guy. So why am I
Yeah.
busy? A realtor we were working with, we did a job for them last November, hadn't paid us till this April. Yeah. And then got another job from him, and I was dealing directly with the client of his, so he paid me directly. And then we did another job right after that for him, hasn't paid me, blocked my number. This is a like mega realtor in LA, commercial. He does brokeries for leases.
Mm.
Blocked my number because he didn't appreciate the panic call. I said, you haven't paid me in 2 months.
Things that we've started to do over the last few years that weren't really in a position to do or didn't really have the mindset to do is firing customers, right? Because a majority
Yeah.
of our customers are recurring,
Yeah.
and we found that well, two things. One, you know, if even if you're paying us, like everybody's first of the month, so you're paying us on time, it's automatic, right? But if it's like the stress and expectations aren't realistic, then we'll probably cut you. And another thing we learned, um, we used to do websites a lot cheaper, right? And our service is a lot cheaper. And we learned that this doesn't apply to that guy, obviously, because he got the money. But generally, the people that like say we build a similar site for somebody for $500 and another one for 5,000,
Same
right?
site.
This person for 500
Yeah.
is
Oh yeah. Oh
so
yeah.
much more work generally, which on one side I get it, right? Because they have less money, so that expense is a bigger expense for them. It's more critical to them. Their business probably needs that activity more than this other guy, right? But it's not something that we needed to deal with for, you know, if we do 5 times the work for
Mm-hmm.
a tenth of the money, it doesn't make sense.
Don't
And
make
it's
sense at
crazy.
all.
I
I
mean,
think it's another
inflation's
thing.
kind of helped us, but we've like doubled our website prices every year for the
I,
last 3 years,
I
and
think it's another
we're
thing
still
with
getting more.
that it just in the business realm is clients, man. They need to be nicer. Like, holy crap, dude! If there's someone, I get it. You're paying someone to do something. That doesn't mean you have full control over them and their life and everything that they
Well,
do.
the
Because
majority of ours are paying less than like a full time, like way less than a full time employee, and there's like 4 people working on their
yeah,
stuff, and they're still like,
well, even it cracks me up when like someone's gonna get all mad at you and they're gonna grind you and harp you, but then they're someone's hiring them too, and they're pissed off at their
maybe it's that like the shit rolls downhill thing, where like they
maybe
get bullied, so they bully.
maybe
Like I'm always getting, but
I personally I would be like, gosh, I didn't like the way I was treated, so I'm gonna try and treat them better.
that's what I would go
Yeah,
for, right? Treat them how you want to be treated, not
yeah, golden rule, I guess.
right.
Yeah, I don't know, man. With the whole like client relationship and like I just think at the end of the day, just be a good person, man. Like just be nice. Don't
Yeah.
I hate to be a good person. Just be nice.
Yeah,
Just be kind. Like being kind and being nice, being kind, you're gonna get so much further. so much further, and things are going to be way easier. And if everybody was nice and kind, things would be a lot better. And greed is just another one that's just
Well, I think greed's a big part of it. Like we have one that they're not paying us a ton of money, but their expectations were insane, right? Like we had one, they spent 150,000 throughout the year and directly can track 750,000 in revenue from that spend, and it's not enough. It's like, and then they let us go after like 17
is
years.
that a 5x?
Yeah, yeah, that's about a 5x, right? And that's only the direct new business, right?
Yeah, then whatever
It's
you
not
can get
tracking
off of, yeah,
referrals,
what off of
repeat
that.
business. So it's probably more
How
like
do you
a
track
million.
the referral?
They don't, but without that being
But
tracked,
is
it was
there
still a 5x.
for us, for a company like mine, right?
Yeah,
Small.
you definitely can. I mean,
Really?
it
I feel
well,
like that would just be so much work.
I mean, the best is just how'd you hear about us, right? And then hopefully
Yeah,
you're.
but who's going to track that
I think
every single
you would
time?
export an Excel and run some AI through it or something, and just
But
if
you
that's a
still
number
have
you
to.
cared about.
But just, I mean, we have on ours, right? We'll take the call and say, "Have you used our service before?" They say yes. Repeat customer, easy.
Yeah,
But a lot of, or we say like, "Oh, they told us about." We have maybe my OCD is coming out again, and I'm like, because like if I showed you our dashboard, you'd be like, "Oh, that you can see perfectly where your stuff's coming from."
yes,
But I'm like, well, is it a percentage off? Is it actually correct? Is it perfect?
yeah, yeah.
So I'm always wondering, like, is there a perfect way to track literally everything, just to the dollar, to the T, without giving up your freedom?
So this is something
If
that
you got a fresh start, maybe, because we're
well,
so fucking.
but you guys do a good job of a few things. So I've had customers come to me and they're like, I don't have any idea. Like Google ad spend, for example, like some companies give no reporting, no tracking, whatever, right? So like, I have no idea. I spent $5,000. I don't know if I got it, whatever, right? So some of the things that I think that you guys do well and that I've implemented with some people, and then there's more beyond that. But like some of the basic things is just separating out your channels, right? Like what you've done. Your
So,
billboard would potentially,
quick
you don't have
question.
phone numbers, but billboards would have a phone number.
Quick question. So, how do on mine? I just have Google search, right? The main ones are
How do I
Google.
separate natural and organic
Yeah,
and
yeah.
maps?
No. Ads, right? Because
Ads is easy.
when they say, is it
Yeah, send them to us. All your ads should go to a separate landing page with its own tracking phone number and its own lead form URL.
okay? Okay.
And then the lead source in the form will be like when we were managing your stuff, that was separated.
Mm-hmm.
The landing page is a separate page. You split test every month, all that kind of good stuff. But you have
Text them.
2 pages, right? For every campaign, you have a separate landing page. Like
yeah.
Redlands,
Now
for
that
example.
you're saying this, it's all coming back to me.
Yeah.
It's all making sense.
Redlands has like we're doing like 10 campaigns. Every page has its own phone number. Every lead form automatically populates the lead source in the CRM. So ads is easy to separate. Google Maps, you can put a different tracking number on your Google My Business versus the main website. And then you can see the natural, you can have things in place to kind of track that conversion. That's less perfect, but at least now you've got Maps has one set of data, ads have their own data, and then natural is whatever's left from Google, essentially, right?
Dude, you know my strategy? Just spray and pray. Just
But you could spray and still track it,
yeah.
right?
I wish
Yeah.
I just that's one of the things I need to be better
Your
at.
software has phone numbers.
Yeah, no,
You can
everything
easily
we
add
has
them.
is positioned to do
Yeah.
what I want. I just don't do it.
Well, I think part of what you got to do is when we were messing with your numbers, I think there needs to be kind of like a reset on the numbers. Like somebody in the office needs to go into that part of it and just double check all. Because I remember we had some that was like it was tied to Riverside and social. It was tied
Yeah,
to what I mean. So it's a
yeah.
matter of having somebody, an assistant or whatever, kind of clean that stuff up
I
and then
think
just be diligent about how they apply it moving
this
forward.
brings up another great topic: is like what you're willing to sacrifice to get to where you want. Right, because if where I want is to make $1 million a year in
Yeah.
profit, right?
Yeah.
If that's where I want, what am I willing to sacrifice to get there? And then kind of breaking down the sacrifice, you're like, no.
Yeah. Like spending 30 hours on minutia tracking might not
Yeah,
matter.
right. Because I would rather make half the money and not do that,
Well, the
which is
flip
what I
side of
had
that
to
though
learn.
is if you spend 20 hours now and you
Yeah,
build a process for onboarding new channels, and then it's 5 minutes moving
yeah,
forward,
yeah.
and it gives you pretty good data because it's definitely important to be able to know where to spend your money.
But you know exactly like I do. When you put all that effort, you still have to manage it.
Yeah,
You still have to be on top of it. And if I'm not willing to be on top of it, then
right.
that's where like it really gets screwed up.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
a perfect world, I'd love to be the founder of everything and just like, run around with my eyes closed and And
Yeah, but
then
you should be able to
everybody else.
delegate phone number tracking to somebody in the
Yeah,
office.
yeah. Well, now I'm getting deeper. I'm getting to
Yeah.
like everything in the
Yeah, yeah.
business, you know. But yeah, eventually, eventually.
Just having that tracking in place. But that's as far as tracking everything, the simplest thing is just to try to
Separate
the short
everything.
answer is to segment
Mhm.
things into different landing pages, different phone, like different
Well,
everything.
our thing's still screwed 7 ways a Sunday, like the the numbers and all that crap that you saw. It's
Yeah.
just, we're still
It wasn't terrible.
figuring it out.
It wasn't
I'm
terrible,
sure
but
I'm sure there's a lot worse.
yeah. And you can have, I mean, and then once you get, there's definitely a lot worse. And there's people that don't track anything, right? Or there's people that use tracking numbers, but we can't get the data. So they're like, how many leads do we get? I was like, I don't have access to your CRM or your tracking phone numbers. I don't know.
I do a 30,000 foot view, view of
Yeah.
everything. Like I look at the calls, I'm like, calls are up. Looks good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like, you could do it to some extreme. I had a dentist that his main KPI for his business success was his account balance. If the number's going down,
Perfect profit first.
we're not good. If the
Bank
number
account.
is going up, we're good.
Hey, doing the simple thing that we know is like a KPI, checking the balance. The balance is low. Go check.
Yeah.
Right? Go check. But to throw that step out of the way and to check and to be like, ooh, that's what it is. Most of us aren't going to do that. Most of us are going to see a balance sheet of profit and loss and be like, found it.
Right.
We need to correct 5% there, and that'll increase.
Okay, but so a balance is the trailing indicator. That's the end result, right?
Mhm.
There's definitely some like I talk about it a lot, and I'm trying to do better about having KPIs and doing some of that early tracking because there is some like, if nothing else, if you know like how much it costs to have a customer, how many interactions you need to have to get that customer, how much the customer's worth, what that customer costs you to service, then you definitely can make decisions to affect that, that final number. So there's some happy medium, right? Where you're not tracking like I just did a video, I think, about reporting, and it's like just have like your 10 main things that affect your business, right? Like I've just updated, my mentor had me go through and update my spreadsheet. And it's just, like starting from my revenue goal, right? And then how many customers does it take to hit that number? How many proposals do I need to send to close enough to get, you know what I mean? So kind of working backwards from that. And it's important in your budget planning. Like it gave me an idea of how much I probably need to spend. A lot of it's estimates because I've been tracking it well. Majority of our business is still referral.
I think it's all estimates because of how fast things change.
It's estimates,
Things
but it's
change.
a baseline.
Yeah, I guess. That's my problem is I just hate working off the speculatives. Like I hate working off of speculations.
Yeah, but if you don't have any of that, you're speculating even heavier.
I guess you're right.
Right? Like even if you're investing in stocks, you're still looking at EBITDAs.
Dude, I just fuck stocks.
Whatever. I mean, I don't either.
I can lose my money my own.
My point is if you just buy a stock because you think it's cool, you're gambling way worse than if you look at some of the financial numbers that, again, you're still gambling, right? But now you're making a guesstimate versus just a complete
We're kind of in
guess.
the realm. In my 3 short years of business, I've gone through 10 seasons of like, oh yeah, today's the day. Like, yeah, I'm going to shake that hand. That means something, you know? And then and then the next week you're like, gosh, I'm tired, dude. Like I can't even think about doing this monotonous task anymore. So,
yeah,
I think like someone told me like seasons of life, and I was like, seasons of life sounds like another stupid tag.
No, but it's there. I mean, like I'm going into my mid 40s. My kid's he's 14 now, so he doesn't need to hang out with me as much. So this is another season of my life where it becomes the city involvement, community involvement, boards, chamber, like night events, stuff like that I didn't want to do before because I wanted to be there. Like I've been to all my kids' graduations, promotions, events, whatever it was, I was there, right? But now that stuff's thinning out, and now I'm like, I want to show him.
I feel like there's a lot of
grind.
I feel like the second, I mean, you could look at it as like a second. If there's 3 pushes, right? It's the initial push, and then there's the second push and the third push. Third push cracks me up because it's usually some like 7-year-old just cooking. He's just dialing. You're just like, damn.
Yep.
Because he just gets that, he just gets some urge in him. But I feel like the second kick is where people just destroy it. Like just absolutely kill it.
As I'm on the second kick, and I think it's going to be really good for us.
I think so. Just because you take that whole 20 years of like, wow, there's a lot that I loved, hated, and everything in between.
I didn't know. A lot of that I did knew and I didn't have. Like the same with your short experience with this profitability versus time, like what you prioritize and what was a success or what was important. It was not like you learned a lot from that, right? And it's the same thing. Kind of learning from that and applying it and doing, and even just doing things that like I've always known pretty much the entire time in business, my I knew that community involvement and chamber involvement was going to be a great referral source for us, a great networking opportunity for us, and a good way to build like really strong in the community. But I just didn't put the time into it or the effort because I had other priorities. So like that's something like that's been nagging in my head for 15 years. And now I'm like, okay, now's the time to jump on it. And I mean, it's been good for us.
Yeah, dude. Like I said, I've gone through 10 seasons where I'm like, push, that's chill, push,
Yeah.
chill. Started wearing flip flops to like chill, because I'm a freaking head case, if you can't tell, and it just anger is my kryptonite. And so I was like, maybe if I wear flip flops at work, like it'll help out, like it'll just help me
Feel
be
the
chill.
Zen.
Yeah, I got flowing hair now. I wear the hat backwards. It's all things that try to like help with
Yeah.
the season of life that you're going through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or get over the past
Mine's the
season.
opposite. Stopped wearing hats and polos, and now I'm wearing slacks and button ups, right? Because it's the same thing, different priorities. I sold my Jeep, drive a Lexus. Like these are all things that
Uh-huh.
where my head are
So
reflective of where my head was at and what my
it's
priorities were, right?
and when you like if you wanted to do a deep dive on anybody that you knew, you could probably see what season of life they were on based on what they're wearing, what they're driving, what
Yeah.
they're eating,
Yep.
like
Yeah. Whether
what they're doing
they're
on their off
fasting and
time.
healthy or they're podcast. He was saying like one of the things that's important to him and he kind of realized like after becoming the chief, and it took him a while to kind of fall into this, but like just being yourself and not following everyone,
Authentically
especially in
you.
leadership, like be yourself. Doesn't mean you have to ignore leadership ideas, books, videos, whatever, but don't instantly try to adopt everything they said and become somebody you're not. You
Yeah.
might pull a nugget from it
Mm-hmm.
that you're like, oh, that'd be
Nuggets.
cool to kind of
Just pull nuggets.
plug in or whatever, but don't change who you are to try to fit the latest trend or whatever.
Only pull nuggets. That's
Which comes back to sustainability. If you're trying to fake who you are and mirror somebody else because of their success, you're not going to have the same
no.
success because it worked for them because of who they are,
Mm-hmm.
right? And their situations or whatever. So
Yeah,
it's
dude,
important not to just.
I've always said I'm always going to be authentically me. And if I can't do that with a partner or with a business or this, I probably shouldn't do it. And granted, in my thick 25-year-old brain, it's hard to not jump on that new opportunity
Right.
or get shiny object syndrome and be like, gosh, this thing sucks that I'm doing, but that's going to be way better.
Yeah.
Because we all know it's not.
Grass green on the other side.
It never is.
Yeah.
Very, very few times is it.
Right.
but it usually isn't. And you usually just have to put your head down and do the work. Now, attention. Did you ever read that book? Can't remember what it was, but he was basically saying attention. The hottest commodity is attention. It used to be oil. It used to be cement. It used to be whatever.
Yeah.
Now it's attention. So whoever can garner the most attention,
Yeah.
that's who wins.
And cut through a super saturated landscape now.
I might be able to name 10 teachers that I had. But every single teacher can name their favorite NFL player, their favorite this, their favorite that.
Yeah.
You
Same.
know,
I could probably name 5 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the only ones that like made a significant impact. They're more normal, normal teachers.
Yeah, you can have. I mean, you have a favorite everything, but at the end of the day, when your favorite is everyone else's favorite, i.e., football or basketball or whatever, there's a reason for that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Say, and they have the exposure. They're out there. Everybody's seeing it.
Well,
Everybody's going,
what Kylie Jenner and The Rock and Ryan Gosling Kendall Jenner selling liquor companies.
Yeah,
they know nothing about liquor other than just having a good time with
they
it.
Partnered with somebody that knew what they were doing, used the brand,
gosh,
gave them licensing fees, paid them a shit ton of money to use their name.
What's licensing, by the way? I've been hearing that word.
Well, I think licensing. It's if you
like, what would you license and make money? Like, how would that process work?
Apply it to like junk dogs potentially.
Sure.
Well, you could license just using the brand. It's almost like a franchise, right? But if it comes to like, let's say you come up with a product. It's like, well, if you have a product, let's say I make that hot sauce, right?
Yeah.
If I make amazing hot sauce that people love, and somebody wants to use my hot sauce, but not put my name on it, put it under their own name.
You get a license so that they can
from me. They'll give me 10%.
So the license permits that person to use.
Yeah, you're basically letting them use it, either your name or
like
your
a
product.
Contractor's license. Now that you have a license, you can
get like 10% of revenue or something.
Rock, dude, that's another spineless
$10 million, let's say, to license his likeness, his brand, his name to be able to use it. He doesn't have to do anything but let him use it, and he gets paid for it. But they're leveraging.
Speaking of The Rock and attention and bad attention, that there's good things that come with the amount of attention you get, but there's also bad things because the amount of persuasion you have on an audience is otherworldly. Like The Rock's changing political views now.
All these people are. TikTok's a great example of that, and a lot of people don't like Elon Musk, but and I was reading some other stuff.
For what did he do wrong?
there's lots of things people will attribute it to it, but one of the things that was interesting with TikTok from somebody else I was listening to is TikTok's an example of exactly what you're talking about, influence, and this applies to social media and business.
It's getting banned, isn't
They
it?
took not TikTok. Oh yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Twitter. He bought Twitter. So Twitter. I meant to say
X.
Twitter. I meant to say X. Twix is what I call it, the blend. But
Twix.
Twitter was an example of they were based in like the Silicon Valley, right? And there were a small part of the population, a small geographic area in the country, right? And back in the day, if those people had a strong opinion, it would kind of go to the neighbors potentially, and it would either die up or pick up, right? But it had to kind of carry through people and it took time, so that their influence wasn't as heavy, right? Then some kids created Twitter, let's say, right? And then some people, VC type people, buy it, right? Now they have a megaphone where they're able to take their little geographic ideas, right? And stuff that really just resonates in the area and spread it globally, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
part of what, whether it's right, wrong, or different, part of what Elon was saying about when he bought it was that they shouldn't have that level of control,
Mm-hmm.
that level of suppression, that level of, stuff. And to be able to, and all social media, that's a crazy part of all social media, is now you have these like megaphones and echo chambers
For
where
anyone.
ideas that used to be, like say it's 5% of the country, right? Which a lot of issues maybe are like
Would
5 or 10% of the
stay
country.
within the
They
5%.
kind of, and I'm not, whether they were right or wrong is irrelevant, but they would stay
Right.
within those centers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now with social media, just, and then the bad part of social media, which is bad for me to say as a digital marketing company, is it wants to show you stuff that you're interested in, that you'll engage with, right? So it's basically its own echo chamber. If you're into a
I
certain
know.
political view,
I
you're
know.
only going to get served
That's
things
so
that
bad.
support that view. You
That's
know what I
so
mean? So
bad.
it just reinforces everybody's views.
That's just so bad because I don't think anyone should be reinforced with their own opinions.
Yeah,
Opinions are just
they're your opinion. They should be your opinion, and you should be open to looking at all perspectives of it. So
yeah, kind of to this point where like the good end of the nation basically being like all in one silo. It's just the cool little niches you're finding. Like I've been to so many small towns and I'm like, this is sick, dude. And I never would have known. And then you see a couple things that you have seen previously and you're like, oh, I think these are my people. I think like I can relate to some of this.
yeah,
I think that's part of the benefits of social media and like exposure and just the megaphone concept
yeah,
is that you're able to like see these different things, which also in 20 years could be bad because then you could really go deep into your own like feelings.
yeah. Which is what happened.
Just
The
a
good
bunch of
side
mini
too is,
cults starting in the United States right now.
at least, yeah. And if you have, say, you have differing views than the community around you, even though they might not be right or wrong or whatever, but you can find other people that you can relate to. So there's definitely the benefits of being able to find commonality with people that
Mm-hmm.
maybe like, yeah, if you don't fit the community you live in the past, that could be very like drive depression, suicide, whatever, potentially. Now you can find other people to resonate with and
Yeah, yeah. Do
be
you think
healthier
do you think a
potentially.
lot of people used to kill themselves back in the day? Just went uncharted.
No idea. Yeah, probably.
I think.
I mean, I think everything was
I don't think it's
similar
as
and
drastic
just
as
not
it
as
is now.
reported.
I don't think it's drastic as now.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
think TikTok is poison. I think social media is poison, dude.
Well,
Like you
it
said,
also gives it
the fact
allows
that
kids to bully and stuff like
yeah,
that
well, the
in
fact
ways like
that everything is catered to you, right? It's like an alcoholic. That alcohol is catered to them to
yeah,
just grab them and just prey on them. Same thing with social media, dude. The fact that like you could say something right now and it might pop up on your social media later. That's a little. It's a
yeah.
little screwy,
That's not there's not a lot
that's
of that, but
manipulation almost.
yeah. Well, there's with from a business standpoint, what you're talking about there.
You've never said something and it popped up on your phone.
Oh yeah, everybody has, right? Especially if you have like an Alexa or whatever. But there's more to it. So there's the things we're kind of learning from a digital marketing standpoint, the stuff that like big companies and people with money are really leveraging. There is now the real money, Google, Facebook, like a ton of their money comes from selling the data. All of that data gets combined into these databases, right?
And they know
Of
everything
like
about you.
everything about you. So I can go out now. I
To
can
sell
remarket
data should be
somebody.
illegal.
I've got a list of 3,000 data points that I can use to narrow down who I want to target. And once I narrow it down, it'll serve ads at their house.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's a little
So
crazy.
like
Put me on that now.
when they bought a house, well, like I was talking to a furniture guy that actually do kitchen remodels, and he's like, it would be cool if we could target people that are from like 25 to 45, a certain amount of household income, bought a new house, or excuse me, bought a house in the last 2 years that was built over 20 years ago. So now he's able to narrow it down to people that have money, have an old enough house that they probably want to remodel. And now he can target them. So the likelihood of getting that versus just blanketing the whole town.
So he's going like, okay, age, okay, cool. Then he's pulling the data of like, okay,
They need to make
any
over
house,
100,000 a
any
year
house that was built before this day,
and was
it's,
purchased in the last 2
yeah,
years.
I mean, it's good. Yeah. I actually was talking to a friend that just bought a house, and the backyard was bare because it's track-esque home. Like it wasn't a full track home. It was kind of customized. They weren't stacked on top of each other, but I was like, oh man, like what are you gonna do? He's, oh, I'm thinking of doing that. I'm like, gosh, I'd love to just plaster this whole neighborhood with a postcard or a a postcard followed up with a social media
on
thing.
his backyard or something,
Yeah.
and the whole neighborhood has dirt yards probably. So absolutely.
You send him a postcard, follow up with a social media blast, followed up by this, by that.
Well, and that's what I just did a video about remarketing, and part of what it talks about is, and something that we're trying to be more diligent about is, you have billboards, you have whatever, you have these different channels separated, like we talked about. When they come there, you can give them, you have remarketing ads and you segment them, right? Like if they come there and they spend 30 seconds and they leave, send them one kind of ad that just kind of reinforces the brand, the product, whatever, like the more general ads. If they come there and
This
you
is
have
all
e-commerce,
website stuff.
yeah, website stuff.
Don't they have to accept cookies for that?
They have to accept cookies. Yeah,
Okay.
but everybody basically accepts cookies. And some of it,
I just started not accepting them, and you can get through the same majority of website. You can get through.
yeah, I don't accept them.
I hate when they don't you don't accept it, and it's like boots you.
Yeah, some of them will be like that. But if you do accept it, and let's say you
We
add
only
a
want
product to
your
the
data.
cart, then you can send them, and they don't buy, you can send them like here's a free shipping coupon or 10% off. So they'll come back and start the order again. Or if they do buy, you can send them like, here's what you bought and here's what other people bought. But there's a lot of ways that you can take.
I always wanted to get into this so deeply, but our service just there's ways you could benefit, but in kind of what you're saying, like product, they want that product. They just have that buyer's guilt. They have
more
this
impulsy for, well, not impulse in the sense they need it, they want it, they're going to book it.
It's a definite need more than a want. Like,
yeah, they're not thinking about removing junk for a year and deciding who's got the best junk removal. And, do I want to do it? Is there a better one?
Or they're not spur of the moment getting influenced by an ad.
Right.
Like they're not like, what?
I was just on their phone. I need junk removal. Like it's demand driven. I would
basically they go outside and they see their backyard and like, gosh, how to
grab their phone.
Yeah, grab their phone. They're not like sitting on their phone like, that's a funny ad.
Yeah. Oh, I got junk.
Granted, there is a perfect person for that. But goodness. There's a perfect person for that we can get, but then I'm spraying at 10,000 people to get that one. That literally would be like, holy crap, my garage. That's right. Like that's a funny. Okay, yeah.
Well, and that's where remarketing can kind of come in, and evergreen marketing, where you find like having socials and having stuff that evergreen means just always on. You find inexpensive channels to be always on, so that you can trigger some of those purchases, right? And then you have, that's kind of the top of funnel, bottom of funnel on the sales side, right? But then the bottom one's like if somebody types in junk removal near me, that's where your ads are spending the most per click, driving them right to a book now page, versus maybe you have like a what does junk removal cost potentially? That's probably a bottom funnel one too. But something like what is junk removal? Let's just say they're trying to figure out. That's the top funnel where you send them like a blog article with some kind of lead magnet and like.
Dude, everyone I've ever talked to in marketing, because that's like the main thing I focus on is the marketing. And I hate to say this because I know everybody probably says this, but junk removal is so unique, man. It is so unique. It's not moving. Moving is a little bit easier to advertise for. You could pull the data of who's selling their home and just blast them.
Yeah.
Right. Or you could, granted, you could do the same
plumbers, thing with junk removal, people that need on-demand services when something happens, I think is a different breed than somebody that's selling a widget or whatever.
Correct. Or like, I think even construction people have a better opportunity than us because you could sell the vision. It's hard to sell a vision of junk removal. You post a picture before and after. It's like,
well, unless it's bothering them and they're not, I could see unless it's bothering them, then they're actively thinking about resolving it. Or, obviously you could do things with the states. There's certainly like partnership opportunities that you guys are already taking advantage of: real estate, construction, estate sales, all that kind of good stuff. But you're right. Like I think the majority of the marketing, like that's the networking relationship side, right? The marketing side is certainly like making sure you show up when somebody searches for it. Like that's
the great point you made, because I was always thinking like, gosh, I wonder how They do it, but plumbers, fuck, that's probably really hard too, because you're just competing with the
Dude, we got one right now.
compete with the bursted pipe that needs it right now.
Well, and you're competing with companies that have been around forever. Like we have one right now that we're struggling to get them a good amount of leads.
Really?
Because they're establishing in this city new, right? So they don't have a ton of reviews. They don't have a presence. They didn't have a presence in Riverside until like last week. We got them an office. Like so. It's so competitive, right? And then there's the big companies that are spending a ton of money. You can get like even like Derek, our IT buddy, like
Mhm.
they have some cost per click words like on the bottom of the funnel, like IT, cybersecurity domain, or whatever,
Mhm.
$80 a click, right? How big of a budget do you need to have with like a 1% conversion rate, let's say, to get enough to make that make sense, right? So that's where it's kind of a struggle, but there is ways to improve it, right? Like we were having as an example, the person had an office in a city that's kind of outside of Riverside. It's smaller, but they wanted activity in Riverside, right? So it's the same thing that we've talked about in the past. So we got them an office in Riverside. Now we're putting our energy into ranking that, running ads to that. That's going to pay out for them, right? Because now they're in a highly populated city. We can do enough with the advertising to still make them show up against the big guys, especially having an office, right? As you well know, an office is the easiest way to show up on Google, like the
Mhm.
fastest way anyway.
Mhm.
It's faster than SEO. You can run ads to it that are cheaper, whatever, right? So having like doing some of those kind of things will help. But yeah, those kind of industries are super competitive, right?
Mhm.
Super competitive.
Services, yeah, services are always just competitive because you're always going to compete with the guy doing it himself.
Well, and think about HVAC. Like there's so many HVAC companies that I know where somebody comes and works for them, sees the opportunity, and then starts an HVAC company, right? Like you go into the summer
Well, look
season,
at me. I started a move,
here too. But like HVAC, they'll go in and like 5 texts will see how busy it is, and then you come out of the season and there's 5 new HVAC companies. You know what I mean? Not all of them last. That's something I've learned
Oh,
even with our
HVAC.
business. Like I've
Yeah,
seen
dude.
lots of companies come and go,
Mhm.
but because it's not as easy like behind the scenes to run a business as they assume. But
Right.
like HVAC, there's so much demand. Like when it gets like right now, starting now till October, they're done. Like they're not.
Crazy
They're
busy.
they're stacked, right?
Crazy
Stacked,
busy.
and then make a majority of their money during this season. But
4 months out of the year.
same with pest control.
Yeah.
Like they're summer's when the bugs come out.
That's dude. I don't know if I could do the HVAC. I would have to do like electrical and then do HVAC on top of it just to like supplement the income.
We don't supplement it.
But
Plenty of.
HVAC is just
If there's
it's
any industry where it's war, it's probably that one.
because you only have 4 months to strike.
Yeah, you make money all year long, but you're right. That's like peak season is
Mhm.
at least in Southern California.
Well, I mean, people are getting tune-ups here and there, but no one's
You sell the maintenance, but still like
cranking their AC like
yeah,
that.
all of a sudden it's been off for 8 months, and then now it's 110, and it's running 24/7. Stuff's gonna have problems.
Yeah, dude, getting into it.
And
Just
that's like
just be
being able to
ready.
be scalable to be ready. Like we're lucky that our stuff is all kind of like pre-planned, prepaid,
Yeah, I was gonna
so
ask
we
you
can
that. Like,
scale easier
how big could you scale with what you have now? Could you double?
with the team I have now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we could
Triple?
go. I possibly, but I wouldn't need to
Right.
because the margins will be good enough that
For yourself, right? Just like we
for the
were talking about
company.
earlier, for your lifestyle, for what you want.
Yeah.
Why would I triple when I could?
Well, I'm gonna triple. I'm gonna have to 10x in the next 5 years is my goal,
Mhm.
right? So, but I
For
have
vanity or sanity?
for sanity to have a possible good exit where I
Oh,
could do different stuff.
okay.
Right? I don't know if I will, but I want to be in that position where I can
What's
exit.
your what's your I don't want to say like backup plan, but what's the thing that'll make you sleep at night if that doesn't happen? Knowing that
Lose sleep or keep sleep? What do you mean?
keep sleeping.
I mean, suppose I want regardless.
Because like I know people have like those goals that they want to get to, but then they know like, okay, if I don't get to there, if I have this in place, it's still gonna be okay. Where
For
like I
me,
same thing. I want to sell it. I want to, make it a $5 million business and sell it.
yeah.
But I'm like, well, if I have a good salary and like I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
having to
that's
be
fine
there
for
all
me.
the time.
The two my real selling is going to be a goal to have something to strive for, right? But the main things driving me right now are my son. I
Mm,
want one. I want to have enough money in the bank that when he gets to an age where he can go into business, that I can support him. And then two, if he chooses to work locally, I want him to have a last name that has a good reputation.
mm,
And as long as I'm achieving those two things, I'm
that's
happy,
awesome.
right?
That was exactly my question.
If I could sell it
Great.
and cash out or give it to him
Mhm.
and then he's paying me out or whatever, right? But to set goals in paper and to know that like I don't necessarily want to do this business forever. Like it's constantly changing, it's different. But every business should have like a goal with an exit plan. You don't have to execute on the exit when you get there, right? If everything's great and it's highly profitable and you're not stressed out, why sell it, right? Because incoming constant cash flow, if you can get it to where you're a business owner
Mm-hmm.
that essentially has nearly passive cash flow from the business, why sell it, right? Like, because you're gonna pay taxes on it and all
I've
that
always
stuff.
wondered that. I've always wondered where, like, the goal of selling. Have you talked to a lot of people that sold?
No,
I've only talked to like one or two.
I think the one or twos that I've talked
The one
to
or two sold for
is
like
the
a
stress.
15 multiplier.
That's crazy.
So that's
I'll never get that. I'll get like a 1.5 maybe.
right.
So 15 multiplier, that's 15 years of revenue. Now,
That's great.
I'll take it.
Peace,
If I'm making millions and I can get a 15 multiplier and bounce,
peace and love.
yeah, yeah. And then I'll sell for you probably and still make money.
Well,
But
I maybe that's a factor. Maybe that's part
yeah,
of the like the people's like, nah, I'm not gonna do it because it's just not worth it. If you're not gonna, if you're, because what I've come to find out is like revenue doesn't always mean anything, but there's some,
EBITDA, that's what they're gonna.
but
do
there's
it
some
off of.
industries, like I was talking to my accountant and I was like, dude, we're just, he's like, what do you, I was like, what do you think we could sell it for? And he threw a number. I'm like, you don't think so? Like, just based off of the very, very limited knowledge I have, I don't think we're getting that type of multiplier. I think it's gonna be very small. And he's like, well, there's other factors to consider. I'm like what? Market share, which could increase your EBIT, I guess.
Yeah. When they call it like goodwill, all the things that aren't numbers,
Right.
like your market share, like your name, your brand is worth a lot, I imagine, versus just what your revenue is. If somebody
So
that's
that's what he
smaller
told
buys
me.
you,
Yeah,
they've suddenly penetrated the market on a different level than they were before,
it's a good point.
right? So there's value
So I
there.
think that's what he was saying. But then I'm like, how do I convey that to people? Because I could sell that all day long, but
Show them your traffic and your brand and your billboards. Like that's, I think that is part of that's part of it, right? Is that goodwill? So my company doesn't have necessarily anything like that. Like we have a brand and stuff like that, but I got an evaluation, and I was like, dang, okay, I'm gonna have to make a lot more money to
do you
get
mind
what I want
sharing
out
that?
of it. No, I don't know how to talk about it, but it's a lot lower than I expected
Yeah.
versus our revenue. So it kind of helped me understand.
What percentage of revenue was it? Half?
It's probably like 60%.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, but the end number is not what I like. That's
Yeah.
an example of it's not worth it to me to stop doing it because it's only a few years.
Well, then you have to go do something else.
I got to do something else. It's not enough to like retire on.
That's part.
Right?
Yeah, that's part of my like hesitancy with selling is like I've already kind of
Unless you can sell
weathered the
enough that you put
storm.
it in the bank account and the interest and the
Yeah.
investments will pay you enough to have a comfortable living, then
It's
you're just gonna have another. And that doesn't mean like it needs to be something, in my opinion, that you can retire off of, but you certainly, and I think me too, aren't going to be comfortable just sitting at home, right? So we're going to do something else, but it'll be
dude.
something of our choosing. We can do it at a pace that we're comfortable with. Like that's what
Mhm.
I want us to be able to. If I do sell, it's so that I can start something new with runway. Like even with this company, I've thought about all the things I would do differently, but I need like probably 300 grand in the bank to
Mhm.
give myself a 6-month runway to
Mhm.
hire the right kind of people to build the infrastructure I want, to build the sales marketing stuff
Mhm.
that I need to do it the way I want to do it, right? So I think that'd be a big part of selling it. No, I wouldn't sell it and do the exact same industry or the same job, right? But I would find something that I'm more passionate about and then have money in the bank where I'm not worried about paying myself.
Do you think
You
you
know,
would regret not doing it that way to start once you did it afterwards?
what do you mean?
So if I, let's say the GC I met with, right? I always wonder if people regret like not just doing it the way that they wanted to originally. Because I feel like not everyone, but a lot of people have that moment where they're like, I'm tired of this. I'm going to fire these clients. I'm going to double my prices here. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. Do you
I
think?
already regret that. But I only regret that because I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't know what I didn't know then, right? I definitely would do everything differently, but that's
Mm-hmm.
only because I've learned what I
It's a
should have
very
done.
broad question.
Yeah.
It's a very broad question in the sense that like everybody has their regrets or their I wish I would have done it
And
that.
there's things I couldn't have done, right? Like I know, so in my industry, like
Because
it's all professional
I'm asking this
services.
specifically because I'm like talking to most people. Do I push or do I not? Because this guy was like, if I were you, I would. He's like, I tell a lot of people, don't do what I do. He's like, just go get a really cush salary, live your life happily. And
I would never do that.
I laughed because I was like, we both know that couldn't happen. Like,
We're not built for
we're
that.
sitting here talking. We talked for 4.5 hours. Like, we're sitting here talking. I know you can pick out of me that I could not do that.
No.
So I think there's
times where I'm like, I should get a job, and I'm like, then I got to show up on their schedule. Like the amount of freedom so outweighs the stress.
Yeah.
But like I said,
I
part
believe
of
so.
like things I would do differently, couldn't afford to do, right? Like all of my workers are skilled labor, and like the minimum salary should be like 70,000 up to like 120,000. And I need like 7 of those people right out of the gate to fill all these different roles I have in mind, right? And that's not counting like middle or upper man, any of that stuff. That's just the workforce, right?
Right.
So we're talking 70 grand, 80 grand a month in payroll right out of the gate, right? So that's where, like, that's the mentality shift where if I can exit and go into something differently, I want to have money in the bank that I can then have runway to build. Because like my business lacks the marketing and stuff like that we provide for our clients because we're so busy doing the client work. So like if I started over, the first 6 months would be 100% working on us, making our website the best, making our ClickFunnels lead source, whatever, our nurturing emails, like all these things that I know need to be done that I don't have time to do because I'm doing them for other people. The first 6 months would just be on that. Just it. Like our stuff would be so locked in before we even went to market that I couldn't do without like a big investment or, you know, my own money from exiting doing this or whatever, right? So that's the part I would do very differently.
Have you considered partnering with people?
I've considered it, but I don't know many people that have had it work well.
SEO, like the digital marketing space.
Well, now we use vendors and white label and stuff like that potentially, but
completely like brand shifting and partnering with
anybody, I don't think.
Why is that?
Because it's a marriage and those don't work out really well.
Yeah, true.
The few times I've had partners 2 or 3 times already, and it's never worked out.
In this business?
In businesses before this, I've never had partners in this business. And I don't want, like, I want people that I can talk to and have peers like you that I can talk to, bounce ideas off, commiserate, share, and stuff like that. But I don't want to have to split my decisions with somebody in my own business. And I just know, like, I know me. I'm an asshole. Like, we're not going to get along forever, right? Like, and then when that happens, then it gets weird.
Would you wouldn't partner with anybody ever again?
If they were like a silent partner investor, certainly. But somebody that well, I won't say it forever, right? But I've had this company for 20 years. How do they even buy in and justify that? If they buy in based on our current revenue, but I've been putting in work for 20 years, like there's no balance there where it makes sense, and it's risky for me. I'd rather grow this, and then let me better answer the question. I have another business that I'm starting with a friend. We're partners, right? It's his idea. He came to me. I see us getting along. I don't know if it'll work out forever, but I'm doing it in that space, right? Because it's a cool idea. I think we can do it together.
Did you put anything like down on paper that says like we'll
have a partnership agreement?
Okay.
You have to have a partnership.
If I don't want to do
how
this,
decisions are made. I did a partnership with a guy that works here doing shirts, and it's only 2 of us, right? And we literally had in the contract that he was a big D&D nerd, like dice game, like, and we had in the contract like we'll each roll a die. Like if we're solid split and we can't make a decision, we'll each roll a die, and the person with the higher number wins. It's funny, but it creates an easy way to resolve conflict.
Yeah.
Right.
And no,
we
for
both
sure.
have to accept that, and we have to have what's going to happen if we part, what's going to happen if we don't agree.
Yeah.
So on and so on, like that. And even then, that one didn't work out because we have different mentalities about, like, in the beginning we weren't generating a lot of revenue, but we're getting orders, just low margin, and he was the one actually putting in the work, even though I wanted to help. Like he was printing. And he's like, every time I get a deal, I was like, dude, we just got a school. They want 500 shirts. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, fuck, I got to do it now. I'm like, it's the energy, dude. Like, now I'm sad. Like, I just closed like a $3,000 t-shirt deal, you know, and no, the margins aren't great, but now we're in, right? And the first few years are the suck years where we'll have low margin, but we're trying to get into the market.
This
and we
is
start raising our prices.
T-shirt
business? Yeah, it was a screen printing t-shirt.
Gotcha.
And we had 2
Did you do anything else? Business cards and shit, brochures.
No, just t-shirts.
Just t-shirts.
This one was just because we do all that other stuff through this company.
Okay.
But we had 2 lines. We screen printed and we sold directly. So we'd buy shirts and we'd sell them for like $30 each, high margin, which was great. We sold maybe 1,000 shirts. And then the other side of the business was the wholesale side, where we'd find like schools and stuff like that. They'd pay like $10, $8 a shirt. So our margin was like a couple bucks, versus like $20. So I was like, if this one blows up, great. This is what can sustain a business if we get, like, obviously we're trying to get you out of the garage manually screen printing, right? The goal is that we get enough of these orders that we can now send this piece off, and maybe we make $1 less each, but we don't do anything, but it creates cash flow, and then we can
Did you have a partnership agreement with him too?
Yeah.
What happened with that? Just
We just agreed it's not working and just stopped.
that's good.
There's no problem. I mean, he still worked here for years after that. So
That's good.
yeah, but it's just a different thing.
Yeah. No, I for better or for worse, I don't have any agreements. It's more just spit shakes.
Yeah, but it's your brother,
Yeah.
right?
But other stuff too. Other stuff too we're doing.
Even like the pod stuff and everything. You don't have anything?
Not yet.
That's right. We were talking about that.
Not yet.
Yeah, I think I think the one thing that I will definitely do is I don't have a partnership agreement with the one that I'm trying to start a business with yet.
I think I
But
just need
it's
to I think I
important to
just
have
need
it.
to I think eventually will, because again, this guy, like, he doesn't fuck around. So eventually I'm sure we will. But I mean, for better or for worse, I like to think that everybody's not out for themselves, and
Have an agreement, dude. It's
yeah.
so cheap to do it. It's not as a business person, you should understand, like, look,
Yeah, it's like no one's gonna be offended.
hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Yeah, right,
That's
right.
it. And this is just to make sure that we both understand compensation,
Yeah.
goals, compensation based on goals, how we separate, how you buy me out if you want me out. Like all that stuff should be in there.
Someone told me that with junk dogs with Zach, with my brother. I literally tried, and I was just like, I don't know, man. I don't
should
even
do it
know
with
what to
him.
put.
You should do it with him.
I don't even know what to put on there.
It's just for
I think our partnership agreement is our mother.
oh, it's you. My calendar is telling me we need to have our podcast.
Our partnership agreement, we've always said, is our mom, because if like she won't
She's your arbitrator.
literally, she
Yeah.
will not
That's
like
an exception. I mean, like you guys, you get along.
It is an
You
exception.
get along as siblings.
But granted, I know brothers that were in business that don't talk to each other now.
After, well,
Yeah.
that's the hard part is like if you don't have
get to that point though.
well, you have it by not having like an agreement. I think that's part of it, right? So if you imagine you're getting along great, everything's fantastic, and then something happens enough that it fractures you guys temporarily, right? It would be temporary, but that fracture then turns into fighting about little things, and then more and more and more, like that divide gets bigger as you fight and fight and fight. And if you had an agreement that kind of made you do something here, like arbitrate and have a clear cut, like I'll buy you out or not, you might still have some animosity, but you're not going to keep breaking. Like imagine Junk Dogs is at 10 million. You guys are the best of friends still, right? And then something comes in that creates enough friction that you guys are fighting about it. And then now you're fighting over like $500 million each or something like that. And those, I can see those little things just building up to where maybe you don't, I'm not saying this happened to you guys, but like you said, people that were probably fine and now they don't talk to each other because they let it get worse and worse and worse because there was no clear defined outcome based on the agreement. Gosh, it's just a safety net.
I
right?
know. I know that. I mean, I sound so ignorant saying like I don't know what would cause that, but because I know there are things that cause it. But I'm like, gosh,
Well, it's things you won't
could?
expect.
Yeah.
I mean, it could even just be calling him the wrong thing one day, and now it starts to like fester. I don't know. Like I don't see that happening.
But then are you not able to just be like, stop being a puss? Like stop being a.
Not if they're already feeling. Not if they're already feeling it.
Well, then this is probably my a bad part of me. Then just bury them. Just drive them out. You know.
Well, okay, but now you're not talking to your brother.
Yeah.
You drove him out. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of stuff that.
Well, that's where I would be. Well, that's where I'd be like, what could I say that offends you so badly that now you can't do this with me anymore? Because I like to think
I don't know what it is, but it happens all the time. You guys probably do have thick skin. Like you guys have kicked each other and talked shit your whole life, so you're probably fine. But it's not going to be.
I think it's part of normal stuff. Yeah, I think partly it. This would be great to do a study on this, but I think partly could be due to like upbringing and just because my family, dude, you walk into a thing. Oh, what? You've been working out lately? You look like shit, you know?
Yeah.
Constant battering. Go to my grandpa, dude. That guy is an elite shit talker.
Yeah.
Wittier than you would ever imagine. And he'll just get
It's not going to be that, though. It's going to be like you draw a dividend because you have to, and he doesn't agree with it. And like, again, it probably will never apply to you guys, but there's that like 0.1% chance it does that could ruin.
Actually, that's a great example, though, is like being like, oh, I need to draw this. And
you're like, but there's not enough for you to do it too. And he's like, okay, now, but then next month he's got a problem. There's not enough money. And like, it's just it's the potential of the rift slowly getting bigger and bigger. And it's the unspoken, unaddressed things that could fester potentially.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's honestly a really, really interesting.
And it defines stuff like that. It defines how you can draw, right? Like your contract will say, if I need to draw an owner distribution, based on percentage. How much do you get when I
How-
do it?
Are there
How-
like templates for this? Because how do you even think of everything that could
you go
happen?
to a lawyer.
And they just have the
Yeah.
majority of like this could happen.
You spend 4 or 5 grand to do it really well, right? There's definitely things for it, like basic partnerships. You could go to ChatGPT and get a basic
Yeah, a
one.
template.
But if you're really worried about the longevity of it, and maybe a 1 page in really clean English, like the friendship, my friend that we're gonna do it with, I'll probably do like a 1 page basic thing.
I think I was
But
starting to do that, but then I was like, gosh, there's so much more that I know I'm not putting in there. And then I get fucking Jacko 1 and
you guys
Jacko
generate
2
enough
telling me,
revenue that you should spend a few grand to have a lawyer build something that you both work with them on, right? So that you both have a fair agreement on things like distribution, things like if what if Zach passes away? Like that should be in there. There should be a separation agreement, right? That separation might be you're mad at each other, or somebody passes away. Like, does Zach's stuff automatically going to go to his fiance or his wife, right? Like, if you don't have anything in paper, probably, right? So now, is that somebody you want to work with, right? Like, there's all those like unforeseen possibilities that you can just kind of address in the agreement,
mm-hmm.
and maybe save yourself a lot of hardship when the shit gets the roughest, right? Like when it gets rough and you're dealing with it is not the time to try to figure out what the right solution is, right? Because now you're already in your feels or you're already dealing with a crisis.
In my ignorant brain, I'm thinking, isn't that just part of business? It's just figuring it out.
Yeah, but you don't want to figure that part out. That's what I'm saying. Like if you're already upset with somebody or you're already emotionally unstable because of a crisis, like Zach passing away,
I almost
you're not
want
going
to
to be in the right mindset to do it, right?
I'm at the point where like I'd rather it just happen than have to like, and it's stupid of me to say, but like rather than sit down writing these I'd rather it just happen and then just be like, yeah, I should now tell the next person to actually do this, you know?
Well, your next business you'll have it, but it might be a very expensive lesson and inexpensive. The worst outcome can be that you lose your relationship with Zach.
Yeah.
Who cares about the money?
I've always
I
thought
don't think
too,
that'll ever
though.
happen, but who cares about the money, the business side of it, like versus that relationship?
Mm-hmm.
And when it can just be like black and white, here's how we deal with it. Nobody can have emotions about it because we already agreed to it. It's already in writing.
But even then, even when you write that stupid shit on paper, you're not being truthful. You're just saying like, in the event this happened, and you're not thinking it's going to happen. You're also not feeling the emotion of it happening. Right. So you're just putting all this stuff on paper just to fight it anyways when that happens.
But there's clauses in there about fighting it, right? Like that stuff's covered too. You have to go to arbitration.
Then you're going to get to the point where you're like, oh, you're getting litigious on me. You're that.
Yeah, but you're already in the fields by then if you're doing that. It's preventative. It's prophylactic.
Well, that's what I'm not saying.
That's what I'm saying.
You're taking the emotion out of a very emotional thing.
But that's when you probably should do it.
You mentioned, I've been working for 20 years, so how can I let someone come and partner because they don't know the intrinsic value? That's where I feel like that piece of paper comes in, and you're like, oh, really? Just because we wrote this down 5 years ago, that doesn't change what I did or this and that, because then it throws out everything you did, all the emotions, all the stress you had, it throws all that out.
But you update every couple of years, right? You don't just use the original one where you're making $1 million and now you're making 20 million. Like it's not going to be the same, right? And like if you're spending less time because you're doing the pods thing or whatever, and now he feels like he's running 100% of the business, it might not be the original agreement that you guys started when you brought him in. You know what I mean? So I'm not advocating. I'm not a lawyer. But I think it's from what I've heard from people, and it makes sense to me that it's a pretty small investment to at least have both of your intentions clear enough that when it comes to it, lawyers can deal with it. Like talk to Nick. Talk to Nicholas Buckles about it. Like
I got to be careful if I make
a good idea on why and what kind of like.
Dude, I hate lawyers. They're always going to tell you the worst.
Not Nick. I don't think so.
He always tells me the worst.
Well, he tells you what he's experienced, what he's run into, right? Well, it's the worst because it's what's happened.
Yeah, sure,
right.
Sure.
And he's not saying it's going to happen to you, but here's what I've experienced, and it could happen, right? Especially in partnerships.
Yeah. But tell me anytime you haven't talked to a lawyer, you shit your pants afterwards.
Well, there's been a couple. They were helping me, not the other person or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But even then, like, yeah, I mean, it's not a good thing, but that's part of. Imagine now having to talk to those lawyers when you're already in the shit, because that's when they'll come into play, and now everybody's on their emotions, and now they're going to be like sharks feeding on your emotions for that dollar.
Who do you hate the most? Like, what type of person do you dislike? Though I shouldn't say hate, dislike the most.
What type of personality do I get along with the least?
No, I would say like industries. Like I dislike lawyers and bankers. And insurance people. Greatly.
Well, you've had different experiences than me. I don't have problems with any of those people. Yeah, I mean, my bank manager's a friend. My lawyer,
Is he
I haven't
hooking you
used
up
it.
though?
She does. Yeah, yeah. Well, she does her best to help me,
You
and
getting a loan anytime you want?
not anytime a lot, but I've got several that maybe, and like when there was like COVID money, she
Hmm.
made sure I knew about it and applied right away and was
That's
in the
good.
loop, and I got it every time.
That's good.
Like it's not favoritism. She can't
Yeah, no,
give me favoritism or whatever, but she made sure I'm in the loop and
that's
in the
good.
know
Fuck that.
and file the right information in the right way. You know what I mean? So there's value in those relationships.
Coaches.
Nah,
It's not directed at anyone specific,
yeah.
but they're just those who can't
I think
do
that's the thing,
teach.
dude. I think there's in every industry there's good and there's bad. There's good you can take from it. There's things you can learn from it. There's things you shouldn't learn from it. I would take a mentor over a coach.
I was gonna say, have you ever? I've gotten better advice on a free phone call.
I've got a mentor now that was part of this EO out here, and now he's EO Orange County. That's really successful.
Industry.
Um, but it's they do pilot school finance, pilot license finance. Brandon
Yeah,
Martini.
yeah.
Um, but like the thing with like EO coaches, they there's definitely value and stuff that you learn from them. But like EO, they won't give you like direct advice. Here's my experience. Here's what I've been through, and there's like a rule not to give advice. So it's kind of like I'm learning from it and I'm adapting, but I want like and then with coaches, there was a lot of fundamental stuff that's important, but it might not be exactly what I need right now to do what I'm trying to do and be able to adapt to that. But versus like my first lunch with Brandon, my coach, he's like, you should do this, this, and this. I was like, look, man, I'm all in. You're successful. You're giving me direct, specific advice. I'm gonna follow it. I'm gonna trust you.
Mhm.
And like those changes I've already implemented are making a difference in my business. But it's somebody that had a smaller business that they sold for, you know, less than 1 million, let's say, right? And had stresses and problems with that, learned from that, started another business, which is now in the tens of millions,
Mhm.
like ridiculously
Mhm.
lucrative, right? And because of that experiences, they're like, here's the things that I did that didn't work. Tell me about your story. Here's exactly what I would do. And I'm like, cool. You've been there, you've done it. It might be right, it might be wrong.
Mhm.
He still says, look, you know your business, so you got to weigh in if it doesn't feel right. But here's the things that I'm doing that work. Here's the program I'm using for my spreadsheets.
I hate
Here's the
when people
type of
say.
task we're recording. I'm like,
I hate when
doing it,
people
doing it,
say,
doing it.
you know your business better than anyone. It's like, fucking obviously I don't.
Right. Well, I know it's better than him, but not some of the core stuff. Like he's just saying, like there might be things like legally you can't do, or rules you got to follow
Gotcha.
in your
Okay,
industry. You know what I mean? Like
that's a
things
little
like
easier. That's a little
I'm
easier.
saying do this, but like there's a compliance issue or whatever, you know,
Right.
like which are it's the Wild West with digital marketing. There's no certifications, there's no licenses, there's no nothing. So we can do whatever we want. But that actual like
We
so
could do whatever we want.
the flip side of what you asked is that the what I would value the most is an experienced mentor that's willing to say, do this, and all they want of the outcome is that, to see you do the work and improve. It's priceless. It's priceless, and it's already making a big impact. We'll see where it takes me, but it's good for my mindset was already in an accepting place. Like I'm like, look, we can scrap this whole thing if you got a better plan. You know what I mean? Like I'm not making what I wanted to make.
Right.
I'm realizing through all these different classes and seminars I'm going through that I don't know shit. I'm not doing
Yeah.
anything right. So I've got to reinvent the wheel, but I'm also doing client work every day. So it's hard to block out. I'm getting to a
Mm-hmm.
point now where I can block out most of my day to work on the business, which is
Mm-hmm.
huge, right? But we weren't there, right? So it's like I'm seeing all these good things, but it's not making a difference versus like, boom, 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 check these 3 boxes. Next time we meet, we're going to review that and I'm going to give you 3 more. I'm like, all right, man, I'm on it. Grind, boom, boom, boom. And like, they worked, right? Like a change in my staffing, a change in reporting, a change in goal setting, like all of those things are tangible things that I can look at, be accountable for, and somebody that has done it is speaking from their experience. Like that's huge.
Would you ever partner with somebody to learn what they know and kind of go in it
Yeah.
with them?
Oh, yeah, yeah. There's like, okay, so an example, there's in my Kung Fu studio, there's this guy, Leo, that has a flight school, sells helicopters. Like if I didn't have the momentum and drive I had for my business, I'd go
Mm-hmm.
work for him for free. I wouldn't even partner. Just let me work for you for like a year and I'll help grow your business. I'll work on your stuff, right? And either I'll stay with you and make a lot of money or we'll partner in something else or whatever. Like if it makes sense, like and a lot of people have done this successfully, go work for somebody for free or for minimum wage or whatever, like whatever your core like minimum requirements are,
Mm-hmm.
and do it. And I'd absolutely be down for that because that's something like flip side of that is that's something I'd be passionate about. Like I definitely want to fly helicopters. However I get there, I want to own and fly helicopters. Right. So I'll go work for somebody for free for a couple of years to get my license, get the experience.
You like helicopters like that?
I like anything with a motor, but
Okay. That's
motor I love anything with a motor, and I
Okay.
like to go fast. Now, if I put that in the air, like a plane or a helicopter, we went out. He let me fly his helicopter.
Oh
We
shit.
took off, right, and then we flew over Riverside, and I'm flying. We flew over my house, the studio, and all that stuff, and he's let me fly. And then he takes over, and we go down like a few feet off the ground in the river bottom, and he's kind of flying along, looking around, and then take. It's,
That's
it's a
crazy.
crazy machine, right? A
Crazy.
machine that you can go wherever you want, hover, sit, look, maneuver.
Helicopters scare me, dude.
I'd probably, I think both of them can fall out of the sky like a rock, right?
What's that?
A plane or a helicopter. But at least with a plane, like if you have speed and your engine dies, you can glide.
Oh,
A
a
helicopter,
light enough plane.
well, it's
A
all relative.
Cessna.
Yeah, like a Cessna type of. No, a big
I'm
ass plane you can glide to. It has big enough wings,
really.
potentially. I don't know. I'm talking out my ass, maybe.
Yeah, I think
But as long
so.
as you have enough, the end of the day, as long as you have enough forward momentum, you'll generate the lift, right? A helicopter, they have to like.
But the second that freaking
Oh,
big
as soon as
old
it does,
plane, it doesn't have the momentum. You're
yeah,
30,000. It's going.
it drops. A helicopter, if your motor dies,
Oh
you're
yeah.
falling straight down,
Oh
and then
boy.
like right before you
Oh
hit the
man.
ground, you reverse the angle of the blades, so they start spinning really fast and generate lift and cushion your fall. Like I'm pretty sure that's how you crash the helicopters. Like you literally like
But you
they're
just
spinning this
if the
way
motor's
because
shot.
the it's not the motor, so it's free spinning, right? As you're falling, it's and I can be completely wrong. Anybody that's a pilot wants to weigh in, but it's spinning, right? Because air's going through it like a fan, like a top, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just spinning because of that. And the angle is making it spin this way, right? On its
How
own.
do you
When
generate
you
the power to do
well,
that? If the
there's a control in there where you flip
like a
it's
backup
going like
generator?
this way. No power. It's going this way, right? The blades, like picture a fan.
Okay,
So when you
I
flip
got
it,
you. I got you.
now
Yeah,
it's
it's a simple
now
mechanical mechanism.
got that mechanism. It's got that momentum or whatever. But now it's switched from
Good luck,
it's
brother.
created lift, and then they're made to like compress at the bottom. So
Good luck, brother.
yeah, I don't know, but I don't think it doesn't happen a lot. So,
This is again, any pilot, please weigh in. I feel like a Cessna besides a commercial plane, I feel like a Cessna has to be the safest option for private flying.
a Cessna, they have parachutes you can put on them too, right? So a Cessna with like an emergency parachute for the plane.
Dude,
But yeah,
did you fly with EO that one time? They had a like last
no, I
August.
missed it, dude.
Dude, legendary. I went up with the guy. He let me basically fly the whole
Yeah,
thing, and then comes times to land, he kills the power.
and floats in.
It was the slowest
Yeah, you're just like,
thing. It probably was like 20, 30 miles an hour. I'm
dude,
like,
how trippy are the lights on the runway? Did he talk to you about that? Did you
mm,
notice the lights? There's like four lights, right? And based on they have a lens on them, so based on like if you're too high, they're
mm,
all white.
mm.
If you're just right,
Oh
they're
my
red,
gosh.
pure white. If
Oh
you're
my
too low, they're
gosh.
all red. So you can kind of judge your
No, I
altitude
didn't
based
know
on that.
that.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
I've flown probably five
You want to
times
know what
now.
happened was I freaking, I was doing it, and then I took my hands off, and when it came time to land, he's like, why'd you take your hands off? I was like, I got scared.
Yeah, I had someone ask me when I was flying this plane, he's like, "You want to land?" I was like, "Hell no, I don't want to
I was
land."
terrified. Yeah.
Yeah, you
He
can
was there.
land.
He was there, like, with the
He'd be
guidelines.
there to help or whatever,
Mhm.
but I was like, "No, I'm good."
But when I was doing that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this could be my ticket to the sky.
I thought of it that way, but
I
flying
feel like
not.
I'm gonna get
I don't
one.
feel like you're gonna
I'm gonna get one.
a plane.
Cessna.
Oh, it's amazing. It's you could go. You want to go to Catalina right now or Vegas?
Oh,
It's a
let's hop
2 hour,
in, dude.
1 hour
Let's hop
flight.
in the
Let's hop in and
Cess.
go.
How long did you say?
I think Vegas is
Vegas
like an hour and a half. I want to say because you're doing
from
like
Riverside Airport.
I could be completely wrong, but dude, it's like a 45-minute flight in a commercial plane. They're going a lot faster, but imagine you're doing 150 miles an hour with nothing impeding you. I do appreciate you being here,
Mhm.
and this is where I'll kind of talk about you a little bit. I think is we met through BNI. I think
Mhm.
originally is where you showed up, right? And everybody's always been impressed with your market penetration, your billboards, your street signs, all the things that have made you guys do what you do. But you did business with us for like over a year, which we genuinely appreciated. I have a good relationship with your brother now because he's still involved in the chamber. So really appreciate the friendship,
Yeah,
you
man.
guys, the being able to get together like this off camera. We do this
Man,
more than we're doing
I,
on
I
camera and just talk about whatever's on our
I
mind.
still
And
think a couple of the conversations we have still stick with me. The off cameras, just
yeah,
the
me
hanging
too.
out, have a drink. Those
Absolutely.
conversations stick with me more than anything.
Yeah.
Any coaching or mentorship I've gotten.
Yeah, and they're just ideas that you can latch onto and stuff. So
Yeah.
again, thanks for coming, man, and I appreciate your friendship.
Thanks, dude.